Hello, denizens of the universe. Trying to ease back into things here, or rather, this kind of loose, unscripted format. Actually, just trying to ease back into making videos in general. Just thought it'd be interesting to try a live event again, since it's been a while. And probably going to be a while longer before I cobble together a more structured and edited video. I'm just going to go ahead and let the biggest cat out of the bag, or just start with the most controversial note. In regards to the whole Jared Shapiro thing, I did some further research and found an article covering that particular subject. And there was a quote from an official Cartoon Network representative, or somebody involved with Cartoon Network, that said that Jared Shapiro was the brainchild of a couple of the other writers and staff for the Powerpuff Girls reboot. And they just modeled the character after him and had him voice him, or had this particular writer voice him since they thought it'd be a fun joke. So, those of you in the comments section for that particular video who have said that Jared was a joke that went a bit too far, you pretty much hit the hammer on the nail. There's no self-insert crap going on. It just boils down to classic, let's put one of the writing team or staff in the show and play with the idea of them as a character. Just have them make a fun, silly cameo and see where it goes. Just not as well executed as it could be. That's really what that boils down to. That's been gnawing at me, so I thought I'd go ahead and follow up on that before delving into anything else and going any further. Hey, PC, what's up? Okay. Another thing I'd kind of like to discuss, I've had another couple of projects that I've been thinking about. There's a couple of projects that I'm really hell-bent on sitting down and writing a script for at some point. One is an idea that was suggested by my buddy Eric Rivera. In other words, a character archetype study, or rather a look at the lovable rogue archetype, starting from Robin Hood and going all the way up to more modern incarnations or variants on it, like Flynn Rider from Tangled and other such characters. I can imagine this being a bigger scale project, so that one's going to take a while just to put together all the research, what specific lovable rogue archetypes I'd want to cover. Probably going to be looking specifically at animation for this one, so definitely Disney's animated Robin Hood is somewhere in there too. Though, for that particular character, I think it'd be a good idea to play compare and contrast with how the anthropomorphic take on Robin Hood compares with a live action counterpart, or maybe a more iconic take on him that more people are familiar with in live action. I think that'd be an interesting take on talking about that particular character. Otherwise, Flynn, he'd probably be near the end of the video. It's going to be a chronological take on that particular archetype, sort of discussing how this particular archetype became a thing, or just a general overall discussion of it. I'm probably going to only pick 2 or 3 characters and do an in-depth analysis or discussion on each of them. That's what I'm thinking about at this particular point in time for setting up that particular video. Oh, PC, in regards to the Tangled cartoon, definitely recommend it so far. I've seen the first several episodes so far because, again, of my buddy Eric. It's a pretty well done series. The characters are pretty true to what you see in the movie. It's a fairly organic continuation of what you'd expect as what happens after the movie, or what's Rapunzel gonna do next. I really like the character that they introduced and included. Cassandra. I I like the kind of dynamic Three Musketeers brand dynamic they have with the three main characters. She's a good foil or another character for Rapunzel to interact with, so it's not just her and Flynn. Someone who's kind of in her peer group, but is a different personality from how ornery and obnoxious Flynn can be. Just somebody else to play off of and help her integrate into life as a princess or discover what she's going to do or where she wants to go with her life. That's really more what the series is about, to see lifetimes and adventures of Rapunzel. And they did bring back the long ass hair. Mixed feelings about that, personally. The way they did it, I'm not necessarily against it. I can see why they brought it back. It's an iconic part of Rapunzel's character. It was in all the promotional art. Whenever people illustrate her or put her up on billboards, do fan art, whatever, she tends to have the long blonde hair. So I can see from a marketing perspective, or even otherwise, why Disney would push, yes, she needs the long hair. And in the series, they've been doing a fairly good job with it just being there, or putting an interesting spin as to why it's back. They have her do interesting stuff with it, the same kind of fare that she was doing in the movie, so you can expect further hijinks with the frying pan and her using it as a tool to stop bad guys or other bizarre creative stuff. PC, in regards to the Big Hero 6 cartoon, when's that coming out? Definitely need to keep better tabs on that. I have not been watching much TV, so I'm very behind on what's new, what isn't, whatever. Hell, for the past couple of hours, I've been watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I've been marathoning that the past couple of days, as soon as I get home from work. Hey, Sean. Thanks. I'm glad to be back. Kind of had a rocky, just a rocky past couple of months trying to figure stuff out. Going to get back to discussing new cartoons or whatever, though. This isn't really structured or scripted in a specific way, just discussing whatever. Oh, people making the Big Hero 6 cartoon are the same people behind Kim Possible? Huh. That's a good team to spearhead it, considering one of the big or most entertaining parts of Kim Possible were how they set up the hero versus villain fights and some of the fight choreography and such. There's a lot of creative stuff they could do with the main heroes for Big Hero 6, and they do a fairly good job with writing for teenage and young adult characters. Or I don't think they did too bad a job with Kim and Ron and the cast there. There's some episodes that kind of half and half on in regards to Kim Possible, but for the most part, Kim and Ron are fairly believable teenage characters, so I'm interested to see how they handle the lead character, or how they go about giving a little bit more character and dimension to the other characters in the cast too. Yeah, definitely curious to see what they do with that. In regards to the upcoming DuckTales reboot, I am very excited about seeing it, and I need to get on. I've been meaning to sit down and watch the original DuckTales, so I see what the original series was like. Just watch that all the way through. This is one of those cases where, after following the Tumblr for one of the creative directors or staff directly involved with the series, he's a big fan. You can tell. He posts stuff about it every other day. It's undeniable just how big a fan he is. He's going to be bringing in references or tie-ins from the comics, stuff the cartoon series wasn't able to cover. If there's any example of a reboot done well or really has high potential, it's this one, just because of how active this guy is and how passionate he seems to be about the project. I just get passion project vibe from this, and I am really excited to see where it goes. Other than that, I can't really comment too much on it because sad thing is I've never watched the original DuckTales. I consider that such a just I should have seen it. It's practically a nostalgic staple for every kid. That's what early 80s up through late 90s, maybe even early 2000s kids. I won't even put that out there. But I haven't seen it. I need to. Sean, in regards to other installments in the Sims series, I've played a bit of The Sims 3, been playing through that recently too, actually. Sims 3, I didn't mind it, and thinking back on it, I really enjoy Isla Paradiso and Into the Future. Those are two installments for The Sims 3 that are unique and kind of different. The Max, the CA team, was really dipping their toe in the water and trying something different from what they did with other Sims games. Sort of. Oh, I also really love the absolute camp and sci-fi B-movie cheese of the Supernatural expansion pack, too. I will admit, after installing all the packs again and playing Sims 3, you gotta have the full moon thing turned off, though, because the zombies really interfere with whatever gameplay you have going on. As much as I love the camp value zombies and such, do you know how ridiculous it is to kind of have a future game going where I have my sim doing stuff in the future world and trying to get on track to? I want to get to the point where I can talk to the time traveler and either set the world as a utopia or dystopia, and halfway through, full moon, she can't do anything, can't get to sleep, can't fill her need bars because everybody's turned into a freaking zombie, and they're interrupting her at like 2 or 3 in the morning, poking her, waking her up, and it's freaking disruptive. It ruins the entire gaming experience. Other than the full moon thing, though, I freaking love the Supernatural expansion pack. They even have this ridiculous TARDIS teleporter scattered all throughout the custom neighborhood that came with it. There's references to supernatural creatures and sci-fi cheesiness all across the board. That is my favorite part of the Sims experience. That you have a fairly on point, or as close as you're going to get, life simulation, and then you have ridiculous fun stuff like plant sims, werewolves, vampires, the aforementioned zombies, aliens. I like that. Sorry, going off on a ridiculous tangent. But aside from Sims 3, once Sims 4 came around, I tried to get into it, but it just didn't click with me as much as what Sims 2 and Sims 3 did. Now, after seeing these 16 different expansion packs, stuff packs, whatever, big turnoff. I'm just done. Quite frankly, I'm okay with Sims 4 being the end of the Sims series if they're going to keep up this micro pack, micro installment kind of setup. That's just me, though. Thoughts on the last Steven bomb? I'm not sure where to start on that. A lot of ground to cover with that one. I'll boil it down to 2 big points, though. I'm really glad that Lars got some substantial character development, and I like what direction they're taking with his character. And I wasn't really expecting him to go so far as having him die and Steven resurrecting him. And that's what the big reveal behind Lion was. I'll get back to that in a minute. The other big point about this, I want Topaz to become a crystal gem. This needs to be a thing. Topaz and the rest of the other nonconformist or quote-unquote defective gyms that Steven and Lars ran into. They need to join the crystal gyms too, or I will be a very upset, unhappy camper. Hey, nothing wrong with thinking that. There's a lot of people that find both diamonds attractive, or several of the gems fairly attractive, character design-wise. Though, of the gem designs in show, I'd have to agree with you. Blue Diamond is definitely one of the more attractive ones. Speaking of Blue Diamond's design, there's been a couple of people that have brought up screenshots from a specific character designer's work. There's a series or a music video based on Daft Punk's Discovery album, and it's called Interstellar 5555, The Secret of Something Universe. And there's a character, the titular Stella, the shape of her eyes and just the shape of her face. The person behind the character designs for Interstellar is definitely the artist that the character design for Blue Diamond was drawing from. Sean, you pretty much just described what exactly I want to happen with Topaz. I need this. I want this. Topaz is my first stone. So Topaz is Topaz isn't necessarily my favorite character, but just yes. What a Blue Diamond as a ghost. That's an interesting approach. You just have to poke around further into that and see what Rebecca Sugar said in regards to Blue Diamond. I did not know that. Okay. Since I'm discussing Stephen Baum in general, I'm just going to go ahead and bring up Lars again. I'd say he's definitely one of the big parts of this particular Stephen Baum. I just can't get over how he was arguably one of the most unliked characters next to Ronaldo. People were 50-50 on him. Kind of curious about what kind of role he'd play or if he was going to have any kind of quote-unquote redemption arc or further character development. And then they set up probably one of the most plot-intensive parts of Steven Universe. Like, you finally have Steven going to Homeworld, interacting with the Diamonds, and who's there with him? The last character you'd really expect when looking at things from a series perspective. Lars could have just been a side character that existed. He could have gotten more character development by playing off of the other townies and just the cool kids. Just somebody that Steven interacted with every once in a while. But no, they went the extra mile and decided to have him go to Homeworld with Steven. And I'm very glad that they did. Actually, you've got a point there, PC, in regards to the cast at large. I'd say that Lars is probably one of the better written amongst the human characters. In regards to the cast as a whole, character writing and development wise, my favorites, or who I think have had the most development and characterization to them, definitely the three Crystal Gems. Steven himself, Connie. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Peridot is close, but she's just been sidelined as the comedy relief for so long now. I'm kind of wondering if they're going to do anything else with her. And I'm just going to come out and be brutally honest. Lapis's backstory was pretty lacking. We need another Lapis episode. She needs more character development. Or at least I'd like to know more about her particular backstory. I mean, there's a lot of meat to her relationship or dynamic with Jasper. But I'd like to see more emphasis on her dynamic with Peridot, or even the other Crystal Gems, or just more about Lapis herself. Aquamarine and Zircon. I freaking love Aquamarine. She's a sass master, and just some of the faces and expressions she pulls. I didn't think Pearl would have competition for most ridiculous facial expressions I'd see in the show. But Aquamarine, she is the queen of the ridiculous faces. And how ridiculous just every other face she makes is screen cap worthy. and that's honestly all I have to say about Aquamarine at this point in time. That, and I really want to see her in a room with Holly Blue. Just think about it. Even though Holly Blue seems more than ready to serve her superior officers or gems, like she prostrates herself and goes nuts over the diamonds, I would just love to see some kind of tension and friction between her and Aquamarine. Like, I'm serving under this gem. I can't stand to be in the same room as her. Just that kind of friction, that kind of power dynamic. Those two are just, they butt heads. I know it. And it'd be freaking fantastic. PC, yeah, that probably, that explains why those two would get pushed off to the side. They'll, I'm just going to shelve my thoughts on those two for now. They may very well be making more episodes about those two with season 3. Huh. That's a really interesting observation, Matthew. I was wondering about that pose that they had Blue and Yellow open with. I've definitely been curious about that for a while. It was definitely very deliberate, and considering Blue's character design, I'm pretty sure it also takes some inspiration from the Mother of the World painting by, shoot, I don't remember his name right now. But definitely a significant thing to keep in mind. I'm definitely gonna put some tabs on that. And okay, I'm just gonna be brutally honest. You just inspired me to write up a rambly blog post once I've done some more research on that particular painting and pose. Oh, I forgot to give a rundown on what I thought of Zircon. Zircon, definitely the blue Zircon was definitely put in a really rough position. Like, it's kind of interesting to think about the difference between blue and yellow in that particular respect. Like, yellow was praised as being this precise, to the point convictor. Like, here's all the evidence. Case closed. Case shut and closed. Like, they were hailed as being efficient and good at their job. Or she was. Even though they don't really have incredibly conclusive evidence or cemented evidence, and they just know exactly what Yellow Diamond wanted to hear. Definitely reflects Yellow Diamond's perspective on things, and how when she gets a certain idea in her mind, or she's set on a certain end game, or that someone is responsible for something, it is hard to get her to budge. She is not going to move. She is just stubborn. She's stuck. She will pursue the end game goal she wants until she gets it. Whereas Blue, she was incredibly angry and frustrated, but she was willing to sit and listen to the facts. Like, she wanted to know more. The motivations behind what happened, why things happened. I don't, after seeing more of Blue Diamond's character, I'm not entirely sold on the idea of her being the more sympathetic Diamond, or even opening a channel with Steven. But not because she isn't sympathetic or emotional. More More along the lines of, I just don't see a clean break or solution to the tensions between the Crystal Gems and Homeworld. There's just not going to be a clean break or easy ending for that. I think the series is going to end on a fairly tragic note. Like, there's going to have to be something drastic that resolves the tension between everybody or just puts a cap on things. Like, it's going to be a very bittersweet ending. It's pretty much confirmed that White killed Pink. I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm not really too excited about pointing fingers at any of the characters in specific. I'll just comment this much. I don't know about Yellow Diamond being the one that did it. I don't think she did. I can see why people would kind of slant in that direction, see it as kind of a power grab or one diamond trying to take control of everybody thing. I I just don't think they're heading in that particular direction. To be honest, I haven't really been lurking around the Steven Universe fandom posts on Tumblr anytime here recently, so I don't really know about all the theories and thoughts or whatever on that. I didn't even know that White Diamond was being considered for being the one that killed Pink. Sorry about the phone ringing in the background there. Yeah, WCLV. I'd have to agree with you on that. That's my perspective personally. I'd rather wait and see or find out who did it rather than point fingers and say, it was Lars and this is why. This is why. Yeah, just gonna shelve that particular discussion for now. To be honest, when it comes to Steven Universe and fan theories and that kind of thing, I kind of shelved jumping to conclusions, especially when it comes to discussion about Pink Diamond or what. Now, discussing that pose with Yellow and Blue, I think that merit or be a worthwhile discussion, that kind of thing, yes, but who killed or who killed Pink Diamond? What's Steven's future? Things that are really plot important or heavy, or there's just so much ambiguity around them, you're really not sure. Just gonna leave them alone. Oh my god. Austin, I am going to read your comment for playback purposes. And so Applejack killed the magical alternate universe Hitler using the Dragon Balls, but is all a plan by the evil banana to send the monkeys into the middle of the desert. Oh my god. Best conspiracy fan theory about some kind of fiction ever. Sean, that's a good question to bring up. Why hasn't White Diamond been mentioned yet? Hell, even one of the title cards sort of had her hair as a silhouette. Like they're hinting or teasing at her. That's a good question. definitely something to keep in mind. They're definitely building up to something there, building up or drumming up more mystery around who is this? What is her role next to Yellow and Blue? What's her relationship to them? That kind of thing. What do you think of the current arc of Dragon Ball Super? Ah, I'm really liking it so far. Just kind of hanging back and waiting to see what happens next. I like how they've been playing with the idea of alternate universes, building up that there's characters or entities more powerful than Goku floating around in the bigger universe. There's an entire planet of Saiyans in another universe. Just playing with different ideas, stories, sort of introducing characters to some of these other worlds and what stakes there are there, even encouraging viewers to have a second or third pick next to Universe 7 for who they're rooting for in the big tournament. Don't really have any big major thoughts on it, just that I I like where they're heading with it. I just like how they're setting things up, what potential it has, what it could lead to. Frieza or Yellow Diamond? Okay, don't kill me for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Frieza. But I will say this much, it's because viewers know what Frieza is capable of, what all of his different transformations are, what his different abilities are. Hell, I was discussing Frieza's potential with somebody who has kept better tabs on Dragon Ball than I have. And the movie pretty much built up. If he really spent time honing his skills and training himself, he could be a match for Goku, and that's saying something. Or he could be a match for Goku and possibly outright defeat the guy. That's saying something. So yeah, Yellow doesn't stand a chance. But that's saying this with I don't know what all Yellow Diamond is capable of other than stomping around and screaming at people. I feel so horrible for saying that, but that's really when it comes to Yellow Diamond as a character, she doesn't come across as someone written with superpowers or transformations and stuff. She and Blue come across as more representational figures. Like, the bigger point is that they're the heads of the government on Homeworld. They're the big authoritarian figures there. The focus is more on what they have to say or how they approach going after Steven or discussing Pink Diamond. The focus is more on their actions and words rather than what kind of powers and abilities they have. Steven Universe has magic, superpowers, and that kind of thing, but it comes across as more of a secondary factor rather than a main one. So it's really kind of comparing apples and oranges when discussing Frieza versus Yellow Diamond in regards to powers, abilities, etc. So who it was is more powerful, Aku or the Diamonds? I'm just gonna go ahead and give this one to Aku as well. Since again, we've seen the extent of his powers and abilities, that he can face off against several battalions single-handedly. He can transform or change his form. There's just so many different things that the guy can do. He's freaking powerful. But if the Diamonds got a hold of Jack's sword or something, I guess that'd do it. Thoughts on the off-color gems? Don't really have much to say about them at this particular point in time. They were just introduced. We just know them as the misfits or an interesting group of gems, sort of food for thought. These are the quote-unquote defectives of Homeworld society. there's a lot of interesting territory that could be explored if we get to spend a couple of episodes with them and see how they play off of Lars or what more of their personality is like. Of that particular group, I was the most fascinated by Fluorite, the big caterpillar fusion gem. She was something. I'm going to be a bit immature here. Fusion has been compared to sex a couple of times, or it's an allusion to it. I don't want to say that it's an exact on point one, considering Steve and Connie have fused, and that's been. It depends on what kind of fusion it is. It can be the ultimate representation of a romantic or platonic relationship, like a combination of the best traits between both people. But Fluorite's comment about we may grow even bigger if we meet the right gem. What's that saying? Is that okay? I just need to stop right there. But just, God, so hard not to make that kind of comment, considering what kind of fusion Fluorite is. Just in that comment. I'm horrible. WCLB and Pierce. Yeah, that pretty much describes exactly where I was going with that. That's exactly what I was thinking. Just I'm horrible. Oh my God, PC, yes. Yes, that is pretty much. I'm going to quote you on this. I'm going to read this for. Fluorite is basically the humanoid form of a harem. PC the unicorn. Sean, that pretty much encompasses it. Of all the off-color gems and who they'd be meeting in regards to crystal gems, I'm the most curious about the Ruby and Pearl fusion meeting with Garnet. I'm the most curious about that. Okay, going to move on from the off-color gems and fluoride. God. I'm okay. I'm trying, but I'm having so much trouble moving. I'm so freaking horrible. Okay, going to move on to a much more to a very different topic. In regards to Ronnie Ann moving away on the Loud House, I'll start by saying this much. I really like how that particular episode was set up and executed. Like you have another take or setup similar to the Loud family. Like Ronnie Ann now has this crazy big family, and it's I like how the episode overall was executed, how they kind of segued into Ronnie Ann and Bobby acclimating to this different environment and getting to know their family members. What kind of potential Bobby would have running the convenience store. His discussion with Lori about what they do about the future and why he wanted to stay there, or what kind of moves they'd make after a year or so of him living there, and what brought Ronnie Ann around to being okay with moving there. The biggest thing is, I liked the Casa Grande family enough. Yes, that's their last name. My God, that that's fun. Casa Grande in Spanish is big house. So you had the Loud family and the Big House family. After watching that particular episode, I'm really hoping that this leads to a couple of one-off episodes every so often that star Ronnie Ann and the Casa Grandes. Just kind of following some of the misadventures she'd be dealing with or contending with, and how she deals with the big family and bouncing off of her cousins and aunts. And they were definitely setting up an interesting dynamic with her older cousin as sort of her older sister figure, how those two would bounce off of each other. There was definitely potential for the older sister figure being a more feminine, into fashion kind of figure, where Ronnie Ann is a bit more of a tomboy. They kind of seem to lock horns and clash on that particular note. I think it'd be interesting to have an episode discussing that, where they kind of come to a mutual respect or understanding for each other, and just that they have different aesthetics, that they have different approaches to what they find cool or interesting, maybe even discovering that they have a mutual interest of some sort. Just there's potential in one-off episodes about Ronnie Ann's adventures with her big family. Just something to take a break from the Louds every so often. There's potential there. PC, I don't really want a spin-off with Ronnie Ann. I just want episodes. I like one-off episodes just every so often in the Loud House main series. There's other series that do that every so often. Like you have a cast of characters big enough, and some of the secondary or side characters stand out enough that it's fun to entertain a couple of episodes where one of them take the leads or the reins for a couple of episodes, and it just goes from there. Kind of like how Adventure Time has one-off episodes about characters you wouldn't expect. It doesn't need to go so far as minor characters or background characters getting an episode. I wouldn't be upset if they did have an episode following Clyde and his dads, for example. But I'm just saying there's potential for that kind of format or setup after that particular special with Ronnie Ann. In regards to Jasper's redemption in Steven Universe, I I don't know if I don't know what direction they're going to take with that particular character, if she's even going to get a redemption arc. Just going to shelve that and wait and see what they do. I'd like to see more follow up on Jasper. I'll go ahead and say this right now. She is one of the most interesting and well written characters out of the cast, in my opinion. It'd be a shame if they didn't address her character one more time. Another character I really hope makes another appearance and gets addressed before the end of the series is Bismuth. There's a lot of untapped potential with her character, too. Now, in regards to Jasper, I use the term redemption lightly because I don't know what direction they're going to take with her character. I honestly just don't know. CDI Ganon versus I Am Mean. I'm not sure who I Am Mean is, and I've only seen a couple of cutscenes with CDI Ganon, so can't really comment on that. Also, PC, I've been meaning to watch Little Witch Academia. I haven't really seen enough of it to comment on it. I don't really know enough about it. Other than that, it's the anime Harry Potter. And of course, I gotta bring that up. The whole Joshy Dean Martin thing. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. there are just certain ships or couples that I can't really say much since I've discussed Pearl and Mara Dewey before, so I'm just gonna go ahead and open that can of worms. I I'll just go ahead and admit that as I started watching through Samurai Jack season 5, I kind of saw Jackie Nashi's relationship as more father and daughter or mentor and student. But the episode that played with them having a bit deeper a dynamic, like sort of introducing a romantic element, I honestly liked the episode. I thought it was funny. I liked the sci-fi B-movie cheese and how awkward Jack and Nashi were. If anything, I'd say that this particular episode and where it popped up, it just they needed more episodes. I wish they would have been given a bigger budget and more episodes to play with so that they could have a few more episodes where Jack and Ashi were meandering, or you just had a few more one off scenes or ideas that got played with. This is one of those one off goofy episodes, like Jack Jumps Good or something like that from the original series. I'd say it's just fine addition to the episode itself. In regards to Jack and Ashi getting together as a romantic thing, I can't say I ship it, but it's Genndy Tartakovsky's story. He wanted them to get together. That's what he wanted as an endgame for Jack. It's nice to see Jack happy on screen for once, or having something satisfying and fulfilling happening to the poor guy. So I'm okay with it. I didn't mind it. Okay, going back through comments here. PC, I definitely agree on seeing more Uncle Andy in show. Okay, since I'm already treading some quote unquote controversial waters here, so I'm just going to go ahead and give some of my thoughts on Andy and Steven Universe too. One of my favorite episodes of Steven Universe are one of the ones that sort of tackled or brought up different ideologies or the meeting of two different worlds. Uncle Andy meeting the crystal gems. He comes across as a bit old school, or that he could work as an analog for like right wing or more conservative thoughts and viewpoints. I really like the Thanksgiving episode since the way he interacted with the crystal gems, it kind of reflects in-laws meeting with each other. Like the one side of the family leans more to the left, one leans more to the right, how they can argue with each other, how their ideas of how their culture or their different ways of life sort of clash with each other, just arguments at the dinner table. And then the best part was just how they made an effort to find middle ground, meet halfway with each other, just try to understand the other a bit better and sit down at the table peaceably as two parts of this bigger family. Like, they don't necessarily love each other, but they can get to the point where they can like each other and get along. I think there's a lot of interesting potential in exploring Uncle Andy's role in Steven's life that way. Since the Crystal Gems and even Greg, they show a more unconventional, kind of different take on what family is or what it means. I would love to see Andy get more involved with that or where his role would be in that particular matchup. Personally, that's what I'd like to see more of him. He's one of the more grounded takes or parts of the show that kind of touches on ideologies or ideas that don't necessarily mesh with what Steven Universe touches on or goes for most of the time. Okay, I'm done with that tangent right there, because if I go any further, I'm probably going to start discussing Ronaldo and just, no. In regards to Star Versus and how they managed to strike that chord between humorous and serious, that's a good question. I'd say that a big part of it is due to the character writing. Just how well they establish character interactions and relationships. And if you look at the love triangle and how they set that up in the show, a lot of the reactions are true to life or fairly realistic. Like, this is how actual people would approach the situation. This is how a quote unquote love triangle would actually play out in real life with that particular kind of dynamic. Like, Star kind of has feelings for Marco, but it's not cut and dry at that particular point in the series at the end of season 3. Then Jackie enters the picture. Marco starts going out with her, and it's a situation that Star can't really do anything about, but she's trying to find the best way to cope with it that she can. All the characters are set up as sympathetic and emotional and such. You have more realistic reactions from them in regards to situations or setups like this. And then you contrast that with what kind of absurdity and surrealism the show plays with when you have stuff like the school obsessing over the school mascot possum and stuff like that. They just know how to push the envelope just the right way, how to make characters sympathetic, how to strike that balance. Like, not lean too much in one direction or the other, when to pull back, when to. It's very difficult to achieve that kind of balance. So definitely gotta give major credit to the writing staff and team behind Star Versus. I'd guess that they spent a long time getting to know the characters or discussing what they really wanted to do with the show and how they were going to set up their character cast and the theme for the show overall. That there's a lot that goes into mapping out and setting up episodes for the show. That's my best guess. Starco Fusion versus Stevani. You guys are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm leaning more towards Stevani on this one. Because even though Marco is fairly rational and level headed, I hate to say it, if he and Star fused, Marco does have a little bit of a risk taker and adrenaline side. A fusion between those two, it'd be a wild card. Stevani would have the advantage because they're a lot more level-headed. They'd be a lot more likely to take a few steps back and strategize, like observe what the other fusion was doing, how they were reacting to things, and then make a move. That's what I'm basing this off of. That Steven and Connie, Connie's the level-headed and logical one in the relationship, but Steven can be more clear-headed, and they're just both strategic thinkers. There's two level-headed people rather than just one. I may be wrong here. That's in regards to the villainous shorts. Watch those the other day. I want this to become a full-blown series. There is so much freaking potential in what kind of ragtag ridiculous team they have set up there. I'll admit that a big part of why I like the idea behind the show is because I was a big fan of League of Super Evil back in 2009, 2012. I love the incompetent villain kind of group led by the arrogant kind of just the arrogant, mean, self-absorbed leader, and then you have the kind of timid, cowardly, mad scientist. Just what kind of crazy antics and adventures can they get into today? If I'm going to be playing some kind of compare and contrast between these two groups, though, I'll just say this right now. Black Cat is a lot more ambitious and competent than Voltar could ever dream of being. At this particular point in time, though, in regards to villainous, I'd say there's just a lot of potential in regards to the series and what kind of comedic hijinks they could have these characters get up to. Sorry, I think my allergy. Sorry, had to get up for a second. My nose was I got into a sneezing fit. Not quite sure why. I think my allergies are starting to act up. Hmm. PC in regards to Jackie and Marco breaking up, I'd rather just wait and see when, if that happens, just rather leave that plot element alone. I'm not gonna speculate about that since, well, I'll go ahead and say, yeah, Starco's probably endgame. But I'm willing to give some benefit of the doubt, as in, not 100% sure where or when they're going to. Just gonna wait and see how things play out. Excuse me. I'm making all kinds of bodily sounds today. PC definitely with you on that. Infinity Train needs green lighted. Want to see more of that series. I think the pilot got nominated for an award too. Marco living on Muni to be with Star. What do you mean? In the event that Star eventually moves back to Muni to take her role as queen or something like that? To be brutally honest, I don't see the series ending with Star becoming Queen of Muni. I have a feeling that something's gonna happen there, that there's going to be a dynamic shift. Like, Star is going to play a role on the council or have some kind of role in Muni's government or future, but I just don't see her completely moving back there permanently. What I think is going to happen there is that she's going to live between Muni and Earth or have some kind of situation or setup like that. The one ridiculous fan theory I have for Star Versus is I'm pretty sure Muni is going to consider some kind of democracy, or that there's going to be some kind of integration between human and monster culture, or some kind of overhaul of how their society works. Oh, oh, in current time. Ah, God, should have been thinking more about that. Of course, given what kind of climate and circumstances are going on in Star Versus. Yeah, actually, Marco going back and forth between Earth and Muni. That seems pretty likely. Just kind of curious to see how things play out. Like, is there. I'm expecting a series of episodes where Marco and a group of people go looking for Star. Like, there's going to be a couple of episodes where they're just wandering around Muni trying to find stuff or figure out what's going on. Though, halfway through the season, they could see things getting to the point where, yeah, Marco still has to go to school, still has to take care of stuff on Earth. That probably just going to set up a portal and go back and forth between them. I Marco's parents are so laid back, ridiculously so. They'd probably be perfectly fine with their son going back and forth between Earth and another dimension, possibly even being gone for several days at a time. Oh, jeez. Don't really have many thoughts on that at this particular point in time. More like I'm curious to see how it plays out. Not sure where Jackie's going to fit in with all the action stuff here. To be honest, I see her going along with Marco and helping everybody out. I'm guessing she's just not going to be a major player. Maybe that's why she didn't show up in the intro. Think that's a shame though, because despite the whole love confession thing, I can see her being on board with going to Muni with Marco and playing a big part in the team. Like, deliberately going out of her way to help find Star and figure out what's going on. The whole romance thing gets sidelined and it just be them being at odds with each other for a while or just not really pressing or pursuing any romantic interactions. Jackie being more of a friend or encouraging support at this particular point in time rather than pushing the whole boyfriend girlfriend thing. I don't know. Just not sure where Jackie's going to end up. I don't know. Also, PC, you pretty much pegged it. Heinous is weird. Heinous is a weird episode. I I put that in the same category as Fetch or the episode with Mina Loveberry. Not one of the better written episodes, questioning why some of the characters go about doing what they do. Though it's not as well executed in a much different respect from Fetch in the Mina Loveberry episode. In this case, Heinous is definitely a recurring secondary villain, one of the more plot important ones. And having her show back up is definitely a big part of the plot. Yeah, Marco's parents were definitely the worst part of that episode. Star versus Lord Dominator. That'd actually be a pretty fun fight to watch. Oh my god! Yes! Yes, I need this. Aquamarine and Topaz with the personalities of Fringe, Vegeta, and Nappa. Yes, I need this. I need this now. Okay, I'm sorry to do this, but I need to get off for. I need to log off for tonight. Hoping to make another video fairly soon, or even do something like this fairly soon. Well, thanks for joining me, everybody. Hope you had a good time. And good night.